begin a process aimed at breaking the political deadlock and achieving lasting peace and stability. We look forward to the appointment of a new special representative as soon as possible to ensure the continuity of these efforts. In the meantime, we assure Madam Kouri of our full support in her ad interim role for the UN's good offices. Today, I would like to focus on 3 points. Firstly, the recent announcement of municipal elections in 60 municipalities is encouraging. The election of municipal representatives is an important first step in restoring citizens' confidence in their authorities, as well as in the country's stability. Holding municipal elections also presents a number of challenges. We join UNSMIL in calling on all the authorities and institutions concerned to facilitate the process of organizing these elections. The successful holding of elections at local level could pave the way for elections at national level. The organization of national elections must also go hand in hand with political compromise. It also requires the coherent support of the international community. Lastly, the political process must be coordinated with a genuine, inclusive national reconciliation process based on the rule of law. Secondly, we call on all actors to respect their obligations under international humanitarian law, and in particular to protect civilians. We remain concerned by the intermittent clashes in the country, such as in Zawiya and Sebha in May, which have led to the death and injury of several people, including civilians. Finally, we are concerned about enforced disappearances, arbitrary arrests, and detentions. According to reports received by this Council, these practices, contrary to Libyan and international law, are taking place throughout Libya. In recent years, arbitrary detentions have been normalized in a climate of impunity. They effectively muzzle political opponents, or those perceived as such, and they spread a climate of fear that is not conducive to the exercise of political rights. They are also used against representatives of certain social, political, or religious minorities. These practices worsen tensions between communities and represent a significant obstacle to long-term reconciliation efforts. Individuals detained arbitrarily must be released unconditionally, and witnesses and victims must be protected. Mr. President, it is essential for the future of Libyans that the country be politically stable and unified, with transparent and accountable institutions. In order to get there, a coherent approach by the international community is essential. Switzerland will continue to work with its partners in Libya and the UN to achieve this goal. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Switzerland for their statement. I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Ms. Kouri, for your briefing. And let me also thank you, Ambassador Yamazaki, for your leadership of the 1970 committee. Mr. President, former Special Representative Batali's resignation is a reminder of the challenges in reaching a political compromise that supports the aspirations of the Libyan people. We are grateful that Ms. Kouri and other members of the interim leadership have stepped in while the UN considers potential replacements. The United States commends the Deputy SRSG's efforts to engage Libyans broadly. We continue to firmly support UNSMIL's efforts to bring Libya closer to unlocking a viable process toward long overdue elections. The UN plays an important role in advancing a stable, secure, and sovereign future for Libya, and the United States supports appointment of a successor SRSG as soon as possible. A unified international voice in support of the security, economic, political, and humanitarian tracks will be crucial to making concrete progress in building opportunities for the Libyan people. To that end, we were pleased the UN Libya Vessel Inspection Authority was renewed in May for an additional 12 months. The authority serves as a deterrent to would-be sanctions violators and facilitates important information sharing about trafficking off the coast of Libya. This resolution is critically important given the increase in violations of the arms embargo, which has necessitated a greater number of interdictions. We encourage the panel of experts' continued reporting on implementation of UN sanctions. The panel provides invaluable insights into destabilizing activities impeding progress in Libya, including through its reporting on violations of the arms embargo and oil smuggling, and the activities of sanctioned individuals, which obstruct and undermine the political transition in Libya. We welcome the panel of experts' identification of individuals and entities involved in embargo and other violations of UN-mandated sanctions. We note with particular concern the recent reports of Russian Federation naval vessels unloading military hardware in Libya. We are committed to using sanctions to deter threats to peace and stability in Libya. We commend the work of the 5+5 Joint Military Commission and urge both Western and Eastern Libyan actors to increase coordination efforts that could help secure Libya's borders and reduce criminality in the south. Progress toward greater military integration remains key to reaffirming Libyan sovereignty and preventing Libya from becoming enmeshed in regional turmoil. On the economic front, destabilizing inflows of counterfeit Libyan currency are devaluing the Libyan dinar and generating chaos in Libyan financial markets. This increased economic instability is continuing to fuel the country's deepening political divisions. The United States recently sanctioned Russian state-owned enterprise Gaznak for producing counterfeit currency globally and printing more than $1 billion worth of counterfeit Libyan currency, which exacerbated Libya's economic challenges. We continue to support efforts to produce a unified budget so Libya can develop a coherent fiscal policy. We also urge Libya's leaders to commit to implementing a transparent, accountable, equitable system for the management and distribution of oil revenues. We support UN efforts to strengthen the rule of law and accountability for human rights violations and abuses. Attacks on civil society and human rights defenders hamper their ability to participate politically and undermine the prospects for long-term peace. Finally, we continue to receive concerning reports about the uptick of new arrivals of Sudanese refugees and displaced persons in Libya and the difficult conditions they face. We support our UN and other humanitarian partners as they work to address the needs of this growing population. The United States is committed to UN efforts to reaffirm and protect Libyan sovereignty, enforce the arms embargo, provide essential services to the Libyan people, and support a clear path to free and fair elections that produce a unified government. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of the United States for their statement. I give the floor to the representative of Malta.
Thank you, President, and I also thank Deputy SRSG Khoury for her briefing. I welcome the representative of Libya to our meeting. President, it is now over 3 years since Libyan leaders agreed to hold parliamentary and presidential elections in December 2021. Regrettably, we remain long removed from this, and the unsustainable political paralysis persists in Libya. We continue to be supportive of all efforts that seek to advance a Libyan-led and Libyan-owned political process under UN auspices. We welcome UNSMIL's proactive engagement with the main Libyan stakeholders and regional stakeholders. On this note, we reiterate our full support to UNSMIL, its mandate and activities, and its acting leadership. The international community must continue supporting this process and equally ensure that regional initiatives do not undermine the UN's efforts. We look forward to addressing the current leadership gap within UNSMIL, as we fear a prolonged gap will only solidify the status quo. In this vein, we welcome the commencement of the voter registration process for the upcoming municipal council elections. It is fundamental that the Libyan authorities support and provide the High National Elections Commission with the necessary funding and resources to successfully hold such elections. We are hopeful that the people of Libya who exercise their right to elect leaders of their municipalities will be similarly empowered to do so at the national level. Malta stresses that any political process must also ensure the full, equal and meaningful and safe participation of women as voters, candidates and observers. It must equally include the views of all Libyan stakeholders and facilitate the active, meaningful and inclusive participation of young persons and civil society. We also urge the importance of providing a safe environment for civil society organizations to work freely and to protect them from threats and reprisals. On this International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence and Conflict, we also urge the adoption of legislation specifically addressing violence against women and girls. President, structural threats to Libya's security remains present. These threats include the volatile political situation, the continued presence of foreign fighters, foreign forces and mercenaries whose full withdrawal should be prioritized, and the proliferation of weapons under the control of various state and non-state actors. The work of all measures that seek to stabilize the security situation, including through the implementation of the Libyan arms embargo, requires our full support. This includes the ongoing work of the 5+5 Joint Military Commission and Operation Irini. To this end, we welcome the Security Council's adoption of Resolution 2733, renewing the relevant authorizations and measures to implement the Libyan arms embargo for another year. Full compliance with the arms embargo and the broader 1970 sanctions framework is essential. We believe that the asset freeze is meant to exist for the benefit of Libya and its people, and that Libyan funds held abroad must continue to be identified and fully safeguarded for eventual repatriation. I conclude, President, by reiterating the right of the Libyan people to choose their own leadership through elections and to see their democratic aspirations realized. The ultimate responsibility in realizing this lies with the key Libyan stakeholders. They are the ones who must act in the national interest and work towards progress. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Malta for their statement. I give the floor to the representative of Slovenia.
Thank you, President. And thanks to Deputy Special Representative and Acting Head of Mission Stephanie Curry for her informative briefing today. Ms. Curry, we fully support your ongoing efforts in this interim period. We welcome your engagement with a diverse range of stakeholders, including actors East and West, civil society, tribal leaders, and the diplomatic community. Allow me to also take this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate the work of former Special Representative Batili. We look forward to the appointment by the Secretary General of a successor to the role of Special Representative in due course. I also welcome the Libyan ambassador to the Chamber for our meeting. President, it appears that Libya remains stuck in a regrettable stalemate. The lack of progress on the political track is affecting all other sectors of Libyan society: security, economic, humanitarian, and human rights. This affects capacity to manage crises as they arise, including disaster risk preparedness and response to extreme weather events. We reiterate that it is the shared responsibility of all actors to show the political will required to put the Libyan people first and engage in good faith and without preconditions with the UN's efforts and move swiftly towards a democratic process, restoring Libya's unity. This should not be indefinitely postponed. The way forward can only be political, and the UN's critical mediation role is key. In that sense, we welcome progress made towards holding elections in Libya at local level. The opening of the voter registration process in 60 municipalities is an important step, and we commend the work of the High National Elections Commission. We call on the Libyan authorities to do everything in their power to facilitate the work of the Commission, and we hope to see presidential and parliamentary election follow in the near future. President, it is clear that the absence of any political progress only empowers armed actors in Libya. it is regrettable that armed groups have growing influence in the country. The Libyan people deserve better. We call for the full implementation of the October 2020 ceasefire agreement and for the withdrawal of all foreign fighters, mercenaries, and foreign forces from Libyan territory. This call comes at an increasingly sensitive and fragile moment for the wider region and at Libya's borders. We welcome the discussion held in Tunis under the auspices of UNSMIL to establish a code of conduct amongst Libya's security and military providers, including the focus on international humanitarian law and respect for human rights. We also welcome Deputy SRSJ's engagement in the margins of this meeting with the 5+5 Joint Military Commission. The work of the Commission continues to be invaluable as we strive towards the unification of Libya's state institutions. Finally, President, we note with concern that the arms embargo in Libya remains ineffective, and we stress the important role played by the sanctions regime and the Libya panel of experts. We call on states to respect the embargo, which we believe is crucial for maintaining peace and security in Libya. We welcome the adoption of Resolution 2733 last month, renewing the authorization of measures to support implementation of the arms embargo. EU Operation Irini represents a concrete, tangible contribution to these collective efforts. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Slovenia for their statement. I give the floor to the representative of China.
Thank you, President. I thank Deputy SRSG Stephanie Curry for her briefing. I welcome the presence of the permanent representative of Libya in today's meeting. I'd like to make the following points. First, dialogue and consultation are the only way out of the political impasse in Libya. Recently, the House of Representatives and the High State Council of Libya have strengthened communication to discuss the formation of a unified government, the holding of elections, and other key issues. China notes that the relevant parties in Libya will hold a second round of political consultations in Cairo. We hope that all parties stay committed to the general direction of a political settlement, maintain the momentum of dialogue, resolve the remaining differences through consultation, and continue to advance the political process. Second, the UN is a major channel for mediation on the Libyan issue. The international community and UNSMIL should continue to provide constructive support for a Libyan-led and Libyan-owned political process. The Bahrain Declaration adopted at the 33rd Summit of the League of Arab States reaffirms its opposition to interference in Libya's internal affairs and calls for the withdrawal of external forces and mercenaries as soon as possible. China calls on the international community to respect in earnest the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Libya, fully address the concerns of all parties in Libya, and avoid imposing external solutions. Third, national reconciliation is an important step towards rebuilding trust and silencing the guns. China commends the efforts of Republic of the Congo to facilitate strengthened communication between the AU High-Level Committee on Libya and all relevant parties in Libya, and to promote the convening of a national reconciliation conference in the country at an early date. China supports efforts to solve African issues in the African way. We believe that Libya can benefit from the experience of the AU in reconciliation and call on the international community to provide necessary support to that end. Fourth, the maintenance of security and stability is a common aspiration of the Libyan people. The recent outbreak of clashes in Al Zawiya and other places has led to dozens of casualties, a stark reminder of the fragility of the security landscape. China calls on all parties in Libya to act in the interests of the country and its people, be rational and exercise restraint, and avoid all forms of violence. The 5+5 Joint Military Commission should promote the continued implementation of the ceasefire agreement by all parties and the establishment of a unified military and police force. Fifth, developing the economy and improving livelihood are the essential path to achieving lasting peace and stability. Earlier this month, we once again witnessed the loss of lives of migrants along the Libyan coast, which is heartbreaking. We call on relevant European countries to effectively protect the right to life and human rights of migrants and refugees, and provide support on the management of Libyan migrants and refugees and economic development in Libya. China commends the holding of the meeting in April between Libya, Tunisia, and Algeria to strengthen regional cooperation in border management, combating illegal migration, and the establishment of a free trade zone. We welcome Libya's efforts to increase oil production to provide strong support for securing the provision of public services and improving livelihood. The Libyan authorities have repeatedly expressed concern about their frozen assets abroad. The Council should attach great importance to this issue and proactively address the legitimate concerns of Libya. Thank you, President.
I thank the representative of China for their statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as a representative of the Republic of Korea. I thank Deputy Special Representative Curry and then for her briefing, and then I thanked also Ambassador Yamazaki for his valuable work as a chair of the 1970 committee. And I also welcome the participation of the Libyan delegation at today's meeting. Over the last few weeks, we have witnessed extensive engagements between the foreign government and the Libyan authorities, where issues such as security, economic, and reconstruction cooperation were discussed. We welcome the international cooperation with the Libyan authorities to tackle the ever-growing challenges at this moment. At the same time, my delegation stressed that his international and regional engagement should be pursued in the direction of promoting the unity of Libya and ultimately toward the formation of the unified government to represent the entirety of the Libyan people through free and fair elections. Against these backdrops, my delegation underlines the following 3 points. First, UNSMIL's role as a mediator and facilitator for Libyan-led and Libyan-owned political process should continue without hiatus. The current precarious situation in Libya does not allow for wasting time, particularly in reaching consensus on electoral laws and holding the long-awaited national elections. In this regard, my delegation welcomes the Deputy SRSG Curry's active engagement over the past few weeks with the leaders in security and military institutions and civil society in Libya. We expect the Secretary General to appoint a new SRSG for Libya in a swift manner. On the same note, I also welcome the High National Election Commission's announcement last week of the opening of voter registration for the 60 municipal council elections and commend UNSMIL's continued work to this end. I urge all Libyan authorities to fully support the National Elections Commission in delivering its plan to hold local elections in 97 municipalities within this year. Second, the concerned party should refrain from providing arms to various actors in Libya, which threaten to inflame the instability both there in neighboring countries, as demonstrated by the recent violent clashes between armed groups in Jayua. We note with great concern the panel of experts' assessment that influence of armed groups in Libya continues to grow. In this context of this precarious security environment posed by various armed groups, including terrorist groups, my delegation stresses the importance of implementing the armed embargo. We welcome the adoption of the Council resolution last month to authorize the maritime inspection of vessels suspected of violating arms embargo in this regard. Third, the sustained attention to human rights and the humanitarian situation in Libya is vital, particularly in fostering the conditions for successful political transition. We are deeply concerned about the recent rise in forced disappearances, arbitrary arrests, and the detentions in Libya, as demonstrated by the disappearance of a member of the House of Representatives and the death of political activists during detention. We urge the Libyan authorities to investigate these cases, hold those responsible accountable. We are also concerned about the dire humanitarian situation of refugees and migrants in Libya, particularly as we witnessed the increasing number of the Sudanese refugees, some 40,000 new arrivals since the outbreak of the conflict in Sudan, according to the UNHCR. In this regard, we welcome the holding of an international conference on combating illegal immigration and border security in Tripoli next month to address the dire situation of the immigration in Libya. In conclusion, the Republic of Korea once again urges Libyan leaders to break the protracted political deadlock and work earnestly toward the formation of a unified government to effectively respond to the ever-deepening socio-economic challenges facing the Libyan people. For our part, Republic of Korea continues to work together with the Libyan authorities to strengthen the cooperation for the reconstruction of Libya, as discussed in the recent high-level meeting between two leaders on the occasion of a Korea-African summit held in Seoul earlier this month. Now I resume my function as a President of the Council. The representative of the Russian Federation asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give her floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I wish to respond to the U.S. representative who once again attempted to speculate on the issue of our country's alleged violations of the sanctions regime against Libya. Let us recall that traditionally friendly Russian-Libyan cooperation has been carried out in line with all international obligations, and this is not contrary to the provisions of specific Security Council resolutions. When it comes to intra-Libyan divisions and attempting to pit us against our partners, this is something that will fail. Turning to the negative impact on the situation of Libya, nobody can compare to the U.S. and a number of other European states after what they created with the country and the region in 2011, the havoc they wrought there.
Thank you. Thank you for the representative of Russia Federation for their statement. The representative of United States asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give them floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be very brief in responding to the Russian representative. We know what they're doing. They're violating sanctions, and we'll continue to call it out as need be. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Libya.
Mr. President, at the outset, I'd like to congratulate you on presiding over the conference during this month. I would also like to thank Mrs. Stephanie Khoury for her briefing and her effort over the past period. Mr. President, almost 3 years have passed since around 3 million Libyans have registered their names on the election registration to renew the legitimacy of the institutions and unite the country through free and fair elections. They are still waiting for this moment until this very day. They are begging the question, until when are we going to wait? What are the real reasons behind this delay in achieving this national benefit and privilege? Who is obstructing the process up until this very day? Nobody has been named, whether it was an individual, group, or even states. These are all questions that the Libyan people deserve to know the answer for. As we have mentioned before, the Libyan people are keen on following such meetings. However, they feel that there is a repetition of statements and they know the results in advance. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have followed Mrs. Khoury's statement today, there is no real tangible progress in the political process. There is a stagnation that has persisted for so long, especially after the UN envoy's post has been vacant, after the appointment of the 10th envoy, we believe that it's going to be almost 13 years that a special envoy has been appointed. What is the value? What's the problem? Is it in the mandate, in the person, in the volume of work, or the interference in the work of such an envoy, or the interference in my country? It's high time to support the exclusive national initiatives and leave the solution in the hands of the Libyans. These are questions that have been revolving around so many, and we had to convey it to you all. In any case, and no matter what the questions were, we stress the need to highlight the following points in any upcoming political process. First, it's important to continue the political path from where it stopped, especially when a new envoy will be assigned. We have to focus on the controversial issues and build on what has been consensual so far. We should not spend time in new discussions and consultations and solutions that have been tested before and proved to be a failure. That's if you want really to learn from the lessons of the past. Second, we have to directly go into a sincere and effective dialogue between the Libyan parties to discuss the controversial points and find consensual formats that would establish a clear roadmap leading to general elections with just laws that are applicable according to a clear time schedule, free and fair schedules, elections according to the schedule, to put an end to all those vulnerable transitional stages. Third, support national effort to continue the security path and work on uniting all police and security forces in the country through supporting the Joint Military Commission. We must continue our effort to implement all provisions of the ceasefire agreement, foremost ending all foreign presence on Libyan territories. Fourth, paying the necessary attention to the national reconciliation path. It is the only way to fill the gap and rebuild social cohesion and the Libyan unity that will be the basis for building trust among Libyans. Without that, we cannot reach a real reconciliation. Such reconciliation must be the basis through which we can support all other paths that have faced obstacles. However, when we turn into the economic situation and the problem of migration or combating terrorism, these are all important matters. However, we cannot counter them or finding solutions to them until we find a real solution to the political problem and unite the country. Ladies and gentlemen, these were only some of the points that we perceive of importance as a reference in the coming period. This would bring some hope in surmounting the current problem so that we don't get into the same vicious circle. Hopefully, the coming briefings would be more positive in providing practical solutions. Thus, we would put an end to those chains of political interference that continued for years. They were and still have a direct impact on depriving the Libyan people from a real Libyan-led, Libyan-owned solution. To conclude, allow me to mention a few points in English so that they can reach you directly.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to take your attention to the suffering of Libyans. We are tired and fed up from the stalemate and the vicious cycle that we have been going through for decades now. We are tired and fed up from being lectured on what to do and what not to do. We are tired and fed up from the inability of this Council to implement its resolutions and to hold any of the spoilers accountable, whether they're individuals, groups, or countries. We are tired and fed up to use Libya as a proxy for certain countries and regional powers, for selfish, greedy battles, some of which have colonial ambitions. We are tired from all of that. I guess it's about time to leave Libya alone and to free it from this council. Let us decide on our future. Let us take the path and pave the road towards the future we want as Libyans, since all of these attempts have failed in the past. It is time for us to leave Libyans alone and have them lead the process and have them take their destiny in their own hands. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Libya for their statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of the speakers. I now invite council members to the informal consultation to continue our discussion on this subject. The meeting is adjourned.